Welcome to IGN Summer of Gaming, presented by MindsEye, available now. I'm Nick Limon, and joining me is Matt Kim.
Hello.
And John Davison.
Hi.
We just got out of the Konami press start, and I just want to talk about Silent Hill F. Folks, what do we think about it? Matt, you go first.
It looks spooky. It looks scary. I don't want to be there. I don't want to live in that Silent Hill town. It looks evil, and I want nothing to do with it. Except I am gonna play that game when it comes out. So no, it looks great. I mean, I think when they first announced it, I was excited, and it's cool that they really have been showing a lot of it. There's been a couple trailers now, and it's out at later this year. It's really barreling towards us, and I'm really intrigued by this concept, and it sounds like they're super excited by it. During the presentation, they kept talking about how passionate they were about this project, about how they really want to capture the essence of J-horror and bring their Japanese influence to the Silent Hill franchise, and everybody who talked about it seemed like they were so into it. And so I'm really I don't know a lot about it, but I'm excited for them to take me on this journey.
What about you, John?
I have mixed feelings about it.
Tell me about it. What's up?
So I appreciate that people are excited about this, and when they've shown it a number of times in the past week, and I've been looking at kind of at our data, and we've done a lot of trailer views, a lot of the coverage we've done has performed. People are clearly excited about this. I don't get why they've done it.
Mm-hmm. Why? Why is that?
Why? Well, to start with, am I to believe that there is now a town in Japan called Silent Hill? Because I thought the whole premise of Silent Hill was that it is a place called Silent Hill. And if they're retconning the entire thing and rebooting and starting over, that's great. But they've not done a great job of explaining that. Which, if they do want to kind of completely have a do-over and it is now a J-horror and we're starting over, then that is great. But they are not doing a good job of explaining what it is that they are trying to achieve with this game. So to me, it is a Japanese horror game that they have put the word Silent Hill on. Because to me, it reminds me of some old PlayStation survival horror games like Siren, or it's even evoking Fatal Frame a little bit to me, even though there's no evidence of there being a camera in it, but it's got that vibe.
Yeah, I think it's the time period.
The fact that it's set in the 60s and it's got a lot of constituent pieces that look very good. I just don't understand why it's called Silent Hill.
Yeah, so you bring up the other games that immediately come to mind, like Fatal. What is the thing that makes this stand out? Fatal Frame obviously has its camera, almost turn-based style tactics, like combat, and then Siren always had the kind of gimmick of you see yourself from the perspective of the ghost that you are in an encounter with. So what makes Silent Hill F special? And I think that your sentiment is shared by a lot of fans, because
it feels like they're just saying Silent Hill is our horror franchise.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. And this is not set in Silent Hill. This is set in a fictional town called Ebisugaoka, which is taking a lot of different inspirations for what it's set from where it's set, whether it be different Shinto shrines, different Inari gates, things like that. So it feels like an amalgamation of Japan through the lens of atmospheric horror, but they were very keen on pointing out the fact that this is very leaning into J-horror specifically,
right.
J-horror film. And, I struggle to think of stuff that's set in 60s era Japan that is a J-horror, but immediately when I think of J-horror, I think that you are suddenly holding yourself against a really high bar in Nick Lamone's mind, because
this to me makes me think that they pitched and made this game and they put it in a room and some marketing guy said, we should put the word Silent Hill on it because then it'll sell more copies.
Originally, it would have been a Ring or a Grudge or a Kiyoshi Kurosawa horror movie.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you know what? We own the rights to this one, so let's just call it Silent Hill. Yeah, I don't want to disparage it too bad. I think it looks impressive. I think it looks scary.
I think as a game, it looks fantastic. My issue is just with I just don't understand the positioning of it. But I think it looks really impressive. I think some of these scenes where the way the combat works, I think there's something really visceral about it, and it looks like a really exciting horror game. There's just the logic of it I don't quite get.
It also looks a little more fast-paced and less clunky to me than other Silent Hill. And I don't know if that's for the sake of modernity or something like that, but Silent Hill always impressed me because you were not Joe Badass. You were always just a dude who happened to pick up a lead pipe, and you're starting to beat up demonic
and picked up a
creations.
radio and is like, what is this? And now in this, it's all like combat. It is a very, very different. It feels, like I said, it feels to me like another game that got the word Silent Hill put on.
Right. Those are all fair. Those are all fair things, and those are, I think, genuine things to like think about, especially for like really hardcore Silent Hill fans who like are deep in the lore, because it's true. Silent Hill is a city in the middle of America, and this is not. I think maybe the best way it comes into my mind is when you see like fan art of like Iron Man as a samurai, or even like there was like the Witcher samurai, right? It's like a remix. I feel like is what they're doing. Is maybe they were like, hey, we love Silent Hill, we're really passionate about it, we have like ideas about it, and also we kind of want to put it in Japan, just for fun, as a.
No, I do actually like that Konami is sort of embracing that it is a Japanese games maker and wants to bring its big franchise into. I think that I really like that, but they didn't kind of go all the way with. Then they could have just been like, well, okay, well, Silent Hill is actually now a Japanese thing,
I mean, in all fairness, though, like obviously Silent Hill is the name of the physical location in America, but for me, like above all, Silent Hill is more of a ethereal, like atmospheric hell dimension, like above all. And I feel like maybe this hell dimension just spreads to the other side of the world, But apart from that, though, let's dive a little bit more into the J-horror side of things, because do we feel that J-horror is directly at odds with the more psychological horror that I think Silent Hill is kind of known for? Because that to me, it seems like J-horror is more centered around societal pressure and how that kind of obviously ekes into psychological horror, but it feels more about how scary it is to be human among other humans.
That's an interesting point, because actually that's not. I mean, when I think about J-horror, when I think about movies like Cure, I do think it's more about the atmosphere of dread than it is necessarily maybe the themes of society play into it. But when I think about, like, and they said in the presentation that Silent Hill was always this melding of Western horror and J-horror. I always felt that came through in you face scary monsters in the dark, which is the Western horror part of Silent Hill, and then there's some J-horror stuff where you pick up a note written in blood that just says, "Don't look up," and then that just sort of like sits inside of your stomach, and that's the like J-horror element of it all. And I feel like that's the sort of melding of the two that I sort of think of that. And this is obviously, I think, maybe geared more towards the dread in your stomach, although at the same time there is a lot of combat in these trailers.
There's a lot of combat. It seems to move a lot faster. There's a lot more focus on monsters, it seems. Like
incredible monster design.
I mean, a great monster design, but there's a lot of them, right? And I think, to me, Silent Hill has always been about like one or two things coming after you, or a thing lurking in the shadows, or like one scary thing. Not a field full of kind of distorted kind of. It's like, again, I think it feels like a very different kind of vibe.
I'm kind of curious though, what the actual like gameplay sensibilities. What is the loop of this game? Because from what I've seen in the footage, it doesn't look quite like traditional survival horror. It looks like we see a shot of her, our main character, about to get stabbed in the neck, and then she wakes up from a dream, and it feels like is that a fail state and we get reset to a checkpoint? Is it suddenly a Souls-like? Like, why is it that her clothes start to get tattered and torn apart as she takes more damage? Like, are there gameplay like mechanics based on that, or is it just a purely cosmetic thing? So there's a lot of question marks I have about it. But do we think that the combat itself feels evocative of the clunkiness? I feel like it feels weird to praise something for the combat feeling clunky, but I think that's what has always stood out to me about Silent Hill. Is I like the fact that it feels clunky and it adds to that atmosphere.
Oh, there's a metal pipe, so I got that. I got that down.
Well, you mentioned it earlier. Part of the charm of the characters was that he was inept, right? He was not a marksman, and he was not good, and he would like swing and miss, and like it was, he is not a sort of combat machine. And I think it does look a little bit like that she's much more of a badass than...
She's a little more capable than our prior protagonist. But overall visual design, I think one thing that's very striking about Silent Hill F is the red flowers that we see present throughout, and also that kind of being personified via this new creature that they seem to be touting as like the pyramid head of this Silent Hill game. How do we feel about its overall design and artistic direction?
I mean, that's very rooted in J-horror, right? Like the contorted bodies is giving off very Sadako from The Ring, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those elements in there at play too. And and I think it's something that we haven't seen before, because I think an easy thing would just have a creature that looks like the Ring monster, right? But there's cornfields or rice paddies of scarecrows that look awful. And I think I always remember the very first trailer where there's like a figure sort of standing in the field and then their face just peels off. And I wonder if that's a monster that we're gonna see, because like that is such a good image that you just can't not put it in the final game. Ooh.
Yeah, that's it. I'm very terrified of these scarecrow puppet ladies. They look
the
terrifying.
and the sound effects where they sort of click and crack when they move.
Also, it's going to be nice to have a change of pace of scenery. I think that's going to add a lot to it. But we've got so much more from the Konami press start. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you want even more from the press start, we got coverage of Metal Gear Solid Delta. We've got the Bloober Silent Hill 1 remake, and of course, an overall grade. But if you want all that, make sure to stay tuned to IGN Summer of Gaming all month long.